Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Uncommon Sense number 28. I think we've got a little bit of feedback going on there, but it's all questions for you. Just keep going, and it's Dean Holmes and Brad Kamanis here with you again. Dean is actually coming to us live. You can't see it, but it's live from a phone box in a co-working space today. And he was talking something about Superman, but let's be honest, Dean, there's only one Clark Kent in the group. And I've got the initials, and we'll leave it up to the viewers to perhaps vote. But, mate, good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you, Craig, for that kind introduction, as always. So great to be here. Yes, I'm coming from a small soundproof phone booth, although that the soundproof is irrelevant given we're live on LinkedIn at the moment. But today, Craig, we're doing a little bit of a vulnerability share about how we can all be better in the goals that we set ourselves. And the theme of today, as we've both launched videos today on LinkedIn after a little bit of time, is accountability. So tell us a little bit, Craig.
Yeah, well, I think, Dean, it's really when, your accountability buddy becomes your real buddy. And then when the real buddy kicks in, do you actually drift off and potentially not hold the person accountable that's asked you to do so? And I think, let's be open. You and I fell into that trap rapidly. We haven't done a video for a very, very long time. And last week we set each other the challenge to make sure we had one done before we caught up this morning for our regular meeting.
Yep.
And let's face it, I think we were both still scrambling. You put me under the pump, which meant I had to scramble because I didn't want to lose the bet either. So I did a really quick video, and based on the learnings of Cameron Fink, hi Cam, who's taught us sometimes it doesn't have to be perfect. Mine certainly wasn't perfect, yet I've received feedback that this word was wrong. And, do you have a tripod? Your arm would stop shaking if your shoulder wasn't so bad if you used a tripod. But so I'm glad people are watching and giving advice. But for all those who did see it, it's a bit rough, but I didn't want to lose the bet.
Well, good to know that your arm muscle has decreased in size and strength as a result of not holding your mobile phone for the last 3 months. But yeah, it's a big shout out to Cam as well, because I think that we both reflected on his training, I suppose, that we did with him last year, to not let the friction or the procrastination in the way of getting the content out there. And so I was fiddling with my microphone, my microphone I plug into my phone. I was fiddling with that this morning, and I was thinking, what would Cam be saying? And Cam would be saying not to let that particular issue with your microphone get in the way of actually doing what you set out yourself to do. And that was to produce a piece of content and share it with the community as to a common problem, Craig, that we often all have, which is the moving into the friend zone of, as I sort of quoted on LinkedIn. I'm not particularly sure if what we know of the friend zone is right here, but we've got this story that we find ourselves in a situation where we were holding each other accountable, and this can be in professional relationships, husband and wife, and husbands relationships, and also just general friendships, where you want a higher degree of accountability from someone. You get it in the early stages, and then what happens is you move into this much more friendly relationship, and so the tension around the accountability gets removed, and you forgive each other for not doing the things that maybe you said you were going to do over the past week or fortnight, and everything gets forgiven up until a point where you have to reinvigorate the tension. And tension is a good thing in this context, that Craig and I set ourselves a challenge to get something done by 9:30. I think Craig was 9:42. I was like 9:26 or something like that. So it's nothing to be bragged about. But we set ourselves the goal, and we were then able to reinvigorate this accountability between us. And so we want to have the conversation today about why we found ourselves in the situation, but also some tips and tricks on how we can get ourselves out as well.
Yeah, I think, Dean, it's really important to get it. We had a great habit going where we were doing at least one video a week because that was the goal we set ourselves. And I remember walking around going, "Hey, I saw your LinkedIn video," and so everything that I was trying to achieve from it, with the most part being just getting over the nerves from turning around and quickly doing a video and throwing it into the ether. Everything I was achieving from it was right, and so then I just let it stop, and I don't get why I let it stop. And this morning when I was doing that video, I actually had a lot of regret for letting it stop, because
Yep.
whilst there was a little bit of muscle memory, I went right back to, my arm shaking. And I know if you use a tripod, it doesn't, but sometimes you don't have one. And I used to be able to hold quite still, but my arm was shaking because I think that was anxiety kicking in of, oh, here comes the first video in a while. I did the perfect take and deleted it because the sound wasn't working. I called my mate Dean and said, "These microphones, has yours stopped working? I can't get the sound working." He goes, "When you play it back, you need to unplug it from your phone. Otherwise, you can't hear it." Good point, Dean. So I just lost my best take because I thought the sound wasn't working. So all of those little bits and pieces, which became really easy, Dean, like there was no effort in doing a video. All of a sudden, all became a little bit harder again.
Yep.
And that's why I had a lot of regret as to why didn't I just keep this going?
Yeah, absolutely well said. And that's our challenge. And lots of things we might set ourselves to start doing in business as well. I know that if you look at different businesses and the activity that they start to take on, one of my favorites is doing like an investment update or a client update and things like that. And the challenge for everyone is to be consistent around this activity. That if you say that you want to do an investment update to your clients every month, then you have to deliver it every single month. It sounds obvious here and now to be, telling everyone about this, but the reality is that when we get into our day-to-day life, there's a lot of roadblocks that trick us or prevent us from actually doing the things that we know we want to do. So when it comes to the doing that investment update, for example, as one of the things in your business, it's like, how do we automate all the different aspects of it so that we don't have the friction of it's the 29th of the month, I haven't done my investment update, and I don't know, not that I don't know where to start, but I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, so I'm not going to be able to do it, and then we forget.
Yeah.
And so that happened to us, Craig, that we knew it's not like we ran out of ideas. It's not like we ran out of things to say to our audience, because that's something that we can always be helping our audience do better in business and do better as advisors. We just lost our voices, and then it got harder and harder to get back to having those conversations.
Yeah. So for those of you who are sick of listening to us, we're sorry, because our accountability is back and it's going to keep happening.
Keep
But
happening.
mate, it makes me wonder too, like one of the things I shared in my video this morning is that I feel like advice businesses over the last few years have been in a regulatory bubble.
Mm,
And it makes me stop and think, what were you doing in your advice business before you got into that regulatory bubble, which was working? And have you actually chosen to start it again now that you're out of the regulatory bubble?
mm,
And what are all of these other things that maybe need reviewing or accountability for or execution help with now that you've got this space back?
yeah.
And I know lots of people will use Dean's most unfavorite word, which is busy, because there are lots of clients coming at you, but the reg bubble's gone. So what is the gap now? What's missing that you could bring back that was actually driving some great success in your business?
Yeah, because there was hours invested in that document creation of OSAs and the like over the last few years, and so how can you take that energy and do it elsewhere? And so
Yeah.
the element, Craig, is obviously having the idea, executing the idea, and then having someone in your world to hold you accountable. And so I talk about my business partner Paul and I being in this friend zone for different periods of time, and the two ways in which we solved it is, one, that we acknowledged it and discovered it, I suppose. And so that takes a bit to work out whether if you've got a business partner or any other relationship. My other favorite one is personal trainers that spend too much time talking to their customers. you shouldn't be able to have a conversation generally with your personal trainer because you should be puffing and
Yeah.
tired. And so the idea that maybe even with your personal trainer that you've moved into the friend zone, in that you're more either the personal trainer is more interested in talking to you than training you, or the other way around. And that's another way of, you've got to cut that to bring the tension back into the relationship to get the goals that you're looking to. So you, like a personal trainer, you have to have the conversation with them going, actually, I want to achieve more. I want to talk less, is absolutely okay when it comes to that being held accountable. Still be friendly, but you're not looking for another friend. You're looking for a personal trainer in that context. And so even for Paul and I, Craig, like, we rebuild our own personal muscle a little bit in terms of accountability, but then also pulled in a third party to build and create a little bit of tension and accountability. And tension in professional relationships, and maybe even personal relationships, is not necessarily a bad thing because it gets results.
Yes.
And so we don't have to be afraid of the tension that might get created through this process. We almost have to lean into it, because one party is disappointed. You need to communicate that, which creates tension. But on the other side of that tension, we've got this greater accountability that happens.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's knowing when to pull those levers, knowing when that person in your life needs you to bring the tension to the conversation, and just having that trust environment with each other,
Yeah.
to go, you know what, if we're calling it, we're calling it. It's not a personal thing. This is what you asked for. You actually asked me to hold you accountable to that.
Absolutely. And that's a great start to the conversation, is that either I've asked for it, or if you are the personal trainer in this side, is acknowledging that you maybe haven't been holding your partner, whatever the partner might be, you haven't been holding them accountable enough. Like, that's also a great place to come from as the other side, going, I haven't been holding you accountable enough. I want to come back in and hold you more accountable, and that's okay.
Yep.
And Craig, changing tacks very slightly, but in the same field. The other thing that we learned is we all put obstacles in front of achieving our own goals. So in terms of how do we hold ourselves more accountable, there was these old tricks, which are probably, there's elements of truth, of putting your joggers next to the door with your clothes laid out the night before, so that getting up and going to the gym was frictionless, because you're removing all these steps from the process in the morning that stopped you from doing whatever you set out to do. And so that's the other side of what I'd love to encourage through this conversation today, is actually working out what you want to do is one step, but then working out how can you create a system or remove friction from the process that you're trying to do in order to actually achieve more by not being distracted. And so for us, that's like LinkedIn now did the auto captions for you. We're obviously capturing your video, Craig, on our mobile phones, and we can be posting straight from our phone. And so we remove a lot of elements of friction by doing that. But then there's still lots more. Did I sound right? Did it work out? Et cetera, et cetera. And so the reflection is to work out at your end what things you can remove from the friction, from the process, such that it happens quicker and easier.
Yeah, no, most definitely, made it. And that can go through everything, whether it's business, personal, whatever it might be. It's about, you're exactly right, it's structure and system.
Yep.
And that's what makes the massive difference. And it's then creating the habit and sticking to it.
Yep.
But I think also important with what we've done, and acknowledging that it's dropped off.
Yes.
We could have continued to ignore the fact that our videos stopped and just kept meeting. And, we've got other successful things going on and lots of stuff.
Because we're successful people. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah. But, we could have just kept ignoring it.
Yes.
But we actually brought it back to the top and went, hey, none of us have done a video for ages. What are we actually doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we could have got the excuse list out, mate, and said, well, Dane, I've had this, I've had this, I've had this, I've had this. But there is no excuse. You can find time to do something if you need to do it.
That's right. It's not, you find the time for the most important priorities, and so it's all about understanding what's a priority. And if it is not a priority, it's better to communicate that, and then it's acknowledged that you're not going to do it. So if I came to you, I was coming and go, yeah, we should be posting videos on LinkedIn. Like, that's something that we wanted to do. You can't say it forever. You've either got to go, actually, Craig, this is not a priority for me anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yep.
Or the opposite is the path that we chose of actually getting it done again. So I feel the audience can hold us accountable. We've obviously continued with LinkedIn, which is still the same thing, live videos on LinkedIn. But we build our thoughts together, which is a little bit different to having to summarize your message into 30 seconds or 1 minute and be on your own and then post it. There's a muscle that gets built around that over time.
There is, mate. And part of that too is last year with UncommonCents, we had quite a few guests along, which proved quite popular too. So I think a shout out to everyone listening. If you'd like to be a guest on UncommonCents and have Dean and I grill you about what it is you do or what
we won't put them in the phone box.
Yeah, Dean won't be in a phone box. You don't have to all squash in. But yeah, it'd be great to get some more guests along this year too, Dean, to come and contribute to our program.
Absolutely. So if you're in that category, reach out. Otherwise, we're coming for you in the next little while as well. So that's very good. So I think that's us for today, Craig. A little bit shorter than usual, but very important nonetheless around our accountability. So it's something that we can all take away and improve on with friends, family, business colleagues, and business partners. To make sure that we're continuing on the journey of improvement.
Correct. Great to be friends, but also hold each other accountable.
Very good. Thank you, Craig.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon, and we shall see you in a fortnight.